we will move on to our last speaker, which is me. So I'll introduce myself. Hi, I'm Tim Campbell. As I said earlier, I am our aquatic invasive species specialist for Wisconsin Sea Grant. And I will be sharing my screen here in a second. You're going to see a bunch of stuff. Sorry. Okay. So I will be presenting a little bit today on a survey that has happened a handful of times within Wisconsin to look at boaters and anglers' perceptions of aquatic invasive species prevention. And while I helped out with this work, Evelyn Hammond and AIS Ozdemir of the UW-Madison Division of Extension Natural Resources Institute Evaluation Unit has helped out with this work. And then also previously in other iterations, Dr. Brett Shaw of the Department of Life Science Communication has helped out, and Deborah Seiler, formerly of the Wisconsin DNR and Division of Extension, and now with Illinois Indiana Sea Grant, also helped out with this work. So I don't think I need to talk too much about the Wisconsin Lakes Partnership if you're here at Wisconsin Water Week, but it's our partnership of the DNR, the university, and Wisconsin Lakes and citizens to help protect our aquatic resources. And for aquatic invasive species prevention, one of the primary ways we are preventing the spread of aquatic invasive species is through our Clean Boats, Clean Waters watercraft inspection program. And a question that I'll ask myself, or anyone helping out with the program administration will be asking is just how are we doing? I mean, we have metrics in the number of boats we're inspecting and the funding spent and the hours spent, but what kind of difference is that making? What impact are we having? So that's what this survey is hoping to better understand. And so for this program, we're lucky to have a couple of data points to see how we've been doing with aquatic invasive species prevention. This version of the survey was first implemented in 2009, was done again in 2013, and then again completed in 2018, which is the version I helped with. This survey had been done in slightly different formats with different questions before 2009, but for our purposes, we're really talking about kind of 2009 as the start of this, which coincides nicely with the implementation of NR40 and really kind of some of our programs really starting. And so what we do for this survey is we use a very standardized method with standardized questions. We get a random sample of 1,500 registered boaters in Wisconsin. We send them a survey. We follow up with them a standard number of times. They get a survey, a postcard reminder, and a survey. And with that, we're able to make generalizable conclusions about our boating population. So why do we value this methodology? This sounds like it could be a lot of work and a lot of mail. So why do we do it this way? So what we like about this method is that it's very repeatable. So anyone can follow these methods pretty easily. Different people have led the 2009 version, the 2013 version, and the 2018 version. And because this is a very standardized method that's well accepted within survey research, it's pretty easy to do from that standpoint. And one reason this method is highly valued is that it's generalizable. If you follow the steps and get a certain response rate, which you generally do because the methodology is designed to get that response rate at least, you can generalize across your whole population. And so that's why we really value this mail survey. A question we get often is, hey, we're doing watercraft inspections. Why don't we just collect the data when we're doing watercraft inspections and we're already out talking to boaters? And not to say that doesn't have value, but in terms of making generalized conclusions about the population, that has some issues. For one, if we're just interviewing boaters at places where we do watercraft inspections, we're only getting boaters that have contact with watercraft inspectors, which doesn't capture the whole population of boaters. So if we were to do that, the kind of our outlook of what aquatic invasive species prevention looks like among boaters is probably a little rosier than it actually is. And so when you do this mail survey, it's random, and anyone anywhere could get it, whether or not they've whether or not they've interacted with a watercraft inspector or not. Something that, kind of in contrast to the statewide boater behavior project, or the special project, if you're familiar with the watercraft inspection project, is that we do try to do this, or have tried to do this on an annual basis, where we randomize where inspectors go, what dates they inspect, standardize the time. So there is a way to do this in person at the landing, but it requires a lot of coordination. Things go wrong because there's so many different people involved. It can be impacted by the weather. If you have a rainy day, it messes with your response rate. So anyway, there's some issues with doing it in person, and the mail version's nice because literally, not literally, you need money, but just about anyone that has the funding and support to do it can do it. So this is what our timeline for the implementation and data analysis looks like. And actually, this should start before November 2018, because we were actually starting this probably at the end of 2017, working with the DNR to sign our MOU, or our agreements for data sharing to get the sample of registered boaters, and we worked through beginning of 2018 to just finalize the survey. We didn't tweak it much, but we did add one new question, and then it takes time to get it printed and get everything set up. And then we sent a pre-notice postcard out in November of 2018, so that way we were just trying to contact people immediately after the end of the 2018 boating season. And so this postcard is just like, hey, be on the lookout for this survey that's coming in December. We sent out just under 1,500 surveys to registered anglers and boaters, registered boaters in Wisconsin. It's 2 less than the sample we got because our 2 postcards came back as undeliverable. We did a postcard and a reminder between December and April, and got 532 surveys completed and returned, which is a 36% response rate, which is pretty good. In previous versions of this survey, they've had a response rate of over 50. If I were to guess what happened, is that it would have been ideal to send things out a little bit earlier and not have so much overlap over the holidays. So we maybe could have got people before they traveled or something like that. But 36% is still totally fine. And then it took us a handful of months to analyze the data, compare it to previous versions, and write up a report. So there's 35 questions on the survey, which is pretty much the same as previous versions, and it goes over a whole bunch of different things that we want to know that would help us inform how we implement our AIS prevention programs. So for our respondents, just some quick demographics. 54% use their boats primarily for fishing. 56% owned more than one boat. 67% both boated and fished with their boat, and 97% were primary users of their boat. So within our survey instructions, we asked the primary user of the boat to fill that out, which I think has some implications for what our demographics looks like. I don't think I have it in here. So because we asked for the primary user of the boat, that ends up being an overwhelmingly male sample or set of respondents, but a similar version of the survey that we ran online, which is kind of a separate project, when we just asked for, or when we just asked, did you boat in the past year, we got a much more even, I think 53-47 split for male, female. So that was just kind of interesting. So I think going into kind of some of the data that I'll be displaying next is just really want to focus in on some of the things that we think have the most impact on kind of evaluating some of our programs, such as knowledge, awareness, familiarity with AIS and laws and regulations, their compliance to those regulations or best management practices, and also the transient level of boaters and anglers to help understand maybe some of the risk that exists. And so for changes in knowledge with AIS between 2013 and 2018, so unfortunately, knowledge about laws went down compared to the last survey, just a little bit. And then there was a tiny increase in awareness and a little increase in familiarity with AIS kind of knowledge and these metrics. So one thing I can maybe try to explain that dip in knowledge about the aquatic invasive species laws is that, and maybe you've heard the saying that, or somebody say that the smartest person I know is the person that says they know the least. There is a tendency for, as people begin to know more about things, they will say that they actually think they know less about things. So one thing, I'm saying more than one thing, but something about our AIS laws is that, you'll see this in a second, some of them are pretty clear and easy to understand. Some of the other ones regarding water or bait use are a little bit more complex. So once you start understanding some of those, I could see how you might think that you don't know as much about things if you realize that some of these things are complex and you might not know the laws exactly. But on a positive note, the familiarity with AIS went up, so that's good. In terms of knowledge of AIS laws and regulations, we can look at, we had a list of question or statements, and we wanted to know, or we asked people if these were legal, illegal activities, or whether or not or if they didn't know. And so some things people did a really good job of, or understanding that these were legal behaviors, launching a boat or trailer with plants or animals attached, or leaving a landing with plants or animals attached to your boat trailer. People generally know that that's illegal and they need to take action to prevent that. People also have a pretty good understanding of that it's illegal to release minnows in waterways in Wisconsin. But as we start to maybe go down the list, it's a little less clear. Reusing leftover minnows, people have less of an understanding of, and then some of our water laws, whether it's leaving a boat landing with any onboard water, including water in a live well, and then leaving a boat landing with your catch in water. People didn't understand those quite as well. Additionally, this is similar to our 2013 survey. Some people believe that using the same boat on a body of water without power washing or other disinfection, such as drying for 5 days, is illegal. There might be people that would advocate for that being a law, but that's not currently a law. So I think there's some nuance there that we can maybe do a little bit better job of explaining. So if looking at compliance to AIS prevention steps, so here's this giant table. Not going to dive into it too much, but I think if we just generally look at all of these different AIS prevention steps, whether it's, and these are mostly related to some of the water behaviors, but also kind of removing plants and animals from your boat and equipment. There's not a lot of difference in most cases between 2018 and 2013, but if we look at the differences between 2018 and 2009, almost everything has improved since then, which is good to see. So we've improved since the start of our program, but I think it's been really incremental improvement in a lot of these metrics since 2013. If we look at transients levels among boaters, so you're a transient boater, according to our survey, if you've used your boat on more than one body of water in 2018, so that makes you transient. And then if you used your boat on more than one body of water within 5 days in 2018, that makes you a high transience boater. And so between 2013 and 2018, high transients went up a little bit to a little more than a quarter of boaters use their boat on multiple bodies of water within 5 days, which could be classified as more of a high risk activity. And then low transients was pretty similar, and non-transients went down a little bit. So there were a little bit more people traveling, and maybe some of those people started boating more. So I just presented a snapshot of some of this data. There's an entire report available on the Wisconsin Sea Grant webpage in our publication store, so you can dive into all 40 amazing pages of it and really get into the details. Something I should have added was just where people are getting their information and where people would like to get their information. And in both cases, information at boat landings was really important, both from inspectors and from signage. So I think that's a good recommendation that can keep coming, or a good mode of outreach that can keep happening based off of our survey data. But so what this data has helped us do. So I think the drain campaign is a great example of an outreach program that came out of this survey when people, it was clear that people didn't quite understand the laws regarding draining water at the landings. So the drain campaign, not only promotes draining the water, but it also gives people an easy alternative when we can hand out the ice packs. So people are, maybe leaving their catch. I'll take a step back. Through focus groups that were done after the 2013 survey, it became clear that some people knew that leaving the landing with water was illegal, but there was a disconnect between, well, if I have fish in my live well that I need to keep alive, that people thought that was legal, even though that was illegal. So the drain campaign helps kind of explain that. And then when we can hand out the ice packs, it provides a good alternative behavior. So we're not just telling people, no, you can't do this, but we're also giving them a good alternative as well. And then it's also helped us, again, kind of reinforce that signage is important and help kind of reinforce some of the messaging that we're using. So for future work, I think this is a really interesting and awesome project, and especially that we have a time series of data that we can compare across. So I think this is really useful. And other states think this would be really useful too. So starting here soon, whenever we get the money, Wisconsin, and specifically Wisconsin Sea Grant, will be leading a Great Lakes Restoration Initiative funded AIS Boater Behavior Change Working Group project, where we'll do a literature review of both peer-reviewed and kind of technical report information like what I just presented, and then create some standardized surveyed methods so that way we can do some of the same boater surveys across all of the states and better compare across each other so we can all learn from each other. So I'm pretty excited to get started on that. And then, of course, hopefully we'll do this again in 2 to 3 years so we can see where we've moved from here. And then maybe just some general conclusions. Outreach programs are effective. I think that what we have been doing has led to the increase in adoption of a lot of the prevention behaviors that we need to see to have effective AIS prevention. And the only way we can really know that is through program evaluation like this. So it's very relevant and important to invest in evaluation for successful AIS prevention. And then we all like making data-driven decisions, and this can really help us continually improve our programs through data, not just opinions and beliefs. So at that, here's my email and social media information. And then also, if you're interested more in what the evaluation unit does, you can reach out to Evelyn Hammond at her email above, and she'll be happy to talk more about how the evaluation unit could help you if you have any evaluation needs.